The colony night was quiet, almost too quiet, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Families in their homes believed nothing could harm them so far away from the wars of Earth. Children laughed inside warm houses, parents finished their work, and guards on watch duty grew tired, yawning while staring at the stars. To them the stars were just lights, distant and harmless, but tonight the stars carried a secret. One soldier standing near the colony wall noticed a strange glow moving across the black sky. At first he thought it was a comet, but then he saw it was not fading or falling. The light grew brighter, burning red, and splitting into several pieces. His hands trembled as he tried to call command, but the radio screamed with static. His heart raced. This was no comet. Something was entering their sky, and it was coming fast. Above the colony, hidden beyond sight, hundreds of ships moved in silence. They were not human ships. Their design was sharp and unnatural, their metal bodies shaped like blades cutting through space. Inside those ships, alien warriors prepared for battle. Their eyes glowed faint under their helmets, their weapons charged with energy that humans had never seen before. To them, this colony was not innocent land. It was a prize, a resource, a target. They had studied humans, watched from a distance, and chosen this night to strike. Back on the ground, the first alarm finally rang. Sirens screamed through the colony streets, and doors flew open as people stepped outside in confusion. Parents pulled their children close, asking what was happening, but no one had answers. Soldiers ran to their posts, but even they did not understand the danger that was falling upon them. The commander of the colony defense forces stood on the watchtower and stared at the sky. When he saw the red lights turning into shapes, his blood ran cold. They were ships, massive ships, breaking through the atmosphere like falling giants. He shouted orders to fire the defense cannons, but it was already too late. The first blast struck the farmlands at the edge of the colony. The ground shook, fire rose high, and the peaceful night turned into terror. People screamed as buildings collapsed. Children cried as their parents dragged them to underground shelters. The air filled with dust, smoke, and fear. Soldiers tried to fight back, but their weapons looked weak against the glowing alien fire raining from above. The commander gritted his teeth and yelled for reinforcements, but Earth was too far. No help was coming. In the chaos, one family ran through the streets. The father carried his small daughter in his arms, while the mother held their son's hand tightly. The children asked why the sky was burning, but the parents had no answer. They only knew they had to survive. Every street was filled with neighbors pushing, falling, crying, all desperate to escape the death falling from the sky. Above, the alien fleet moved like predators. Their ships circled the colony, targeting defense towers and power plants. With each strike, the humans lost more hope. The commander watched his soldiers fall one by one, and rage filled his chest. He refused to surrender. He lifted his weapon and fired into the sky, knowing it was useless, but his heart demanded resistance. Around him, his soldiers followed, shouting with courage even as fear burned their eyes. The aliens finally landed. Their ships opened like dark mouths, releasing troops into the streets. They were tall, armored in black plates, their weapons glowing like fire in their hands. Their footsteps shook the ground as they marched forward without hesitation. The humans had never seen creatures like this before. Some screamed at the sight, others froze, unable to move. The invaders showed no mercy. They crushed everything in their path, hunting down soldiers and civilians alike. But humans are stubborn. Even in fear, they fight. Small groups of soldiers gathered in alleys and rooftops, firing old rifles and rockets at the alien warriors. A rocket hit one of the ships, and for a brief moment, the crowd cheered as flames burst from its side. Hope flickered in their hearts, but it was short. The aliens roared back with vengeance, destroying an entire block in seconds. The cheer turned into silence, then into sobs. Inside a broken shelter, the family who had been running earlier hid with dozens of others. The father held his daughter close while listening to the bombs outside. The mother whispered prayers, her son clinging to her arm. Fear filled every corner of the room, but so did determination. People looked at one another, sharing the same silent question. Would this be their end, or would they rise against the impossible? As dawn approached, the colony was no longer the same. Fires burned everywhere, smoke covered the sky, and the air was heavy with loss. Still, the humans were not broken. They had suffered, but they were alive. And deep inside every survivor, anger grew stronger than fear. The aliens thought this was an easy victory, but they had made a mistake. They had woken something in humanity that would not rest. The war had come without warning. The peace was shattered in a single night. But this was not the end. It was only the beginning of a greater fight, a fight that would decide not only the colony's survival but the future of humanity itself. The humans were weak, but weakness does not always mean defeat. Sometimes, it means rage waiting to rise, fire waiting to spread, and courage waiting to awaken. The unexpected war had begun, and nothing in the universe would remain the same again. The colony was broken, but not silent. Smoke rose from every street, fire painted the sky red, and cries of the wounded filled the night. Yet beneath all the noise, there was another sound, quiet but powerful, the sound of survival. The people who lived through the first strike refused to lie down and die. They were scared, yes, but fear had turned into something harder, something sharper. It had turned into anger. The invaders thought humans would break, but humans had always been stubborn. The commander of the defense forces sat inside a half-destroyed bunker, his face covered with ash and blood. His soldiers gathered around him, some injured, some trembling, all exhausted. Yet their eyes held fire. He looked at them and saw not broken men but burning hearts. He stood and spoke with a voice that shook the walls. They think we are weak. They think we will bow. But they will learn tonight, humans never bow. His words spread like a spark. The soldiers nodded, gripping their weapons tighter. Even the wounded lifted their heads, refusing to surrender. Outside, alien troops patrolled the streets. Heavy steps echoed on the ruined ground, their glowing weapons ready to strike at anyone who moved. They searched for survivors, dragging people from shelters, and silencing any who resisted. Their leader, a tall figure with armor blacker than night, walked with confidence, believing the colony was already his. But he did not see the shadows moving behind him. Small groups of humans had begun to organize. They used alleyways, tunnels, and broken rooftops as their battlegrounds. They could not face the enemy directly, but they could sting like fire ants, striking fast, then vanishing before the enemy could answer. In one ruined street, the father who had saved his children earlier now stood with a small band of neighbors. They had only hunting rifles and old tools, nothing compared to the glowing alien guns, but their eyes carried no fear. He looked at his daughter hiding behind rubble and felt a strength he never knew he had. He whispered to the others, "If we do nothing, they will take everything. If we fight, maybe we die. But if we fight, maybe they die too." His words filled the men and women around him with courage. They raised their weapons and prepared for the moment. When the next alien patrol passed, they attacked from both sides, firing wildly, throwing stones, and even charging with blades. The aliens were strong, but they were not ready for desperate humans. 2 fell to the ground before the rest fired back, and the street filled with screams. Some humans died, but some survived, and most importantly, they proved the aliens could bleed. Far above, the alien commander received the report with cold silence. He had expected the colony to fall quickly, yet resistance was spreading. His soldiers could destroy buildings, but they could not break human spirit. That spirit was dangerous, for it could grow into something more. He slammed his clawed fist against the console, ordering his fleet to intensify the attacks. But what he did not understand was that with every attack, with every scream, the humans' fury grew. Back in the bunker, the commander of the humans received word that civilians were joining the fight. Farmers, miners, and even children too young to be soldiers were picking up weapons, fighting in their own ways. Some sabotaged alien supplies, others spread false signals to confuse their scanners. The commander smiled bitterly. His people had nothing, yet they were turning nothing into a weapon. He knew they could not win tonight, but survival itself was victory. If they lived, They could send a message back to Earth. If Earth knew what happened here, humanity would answer. The night stretched on, filled with fire and chaos. In the ruins of a marketplace, the mother who had once prayed in silence now held a stolen alien weapon in her hands. Her son stood beside her, holding rocks he had gathered. She aimed the glowing rifle at an approaching alien and fired. The creature fell with a heavy crash. She had never held a weapon before, but now her arms were steady, her eyes hard. Around her, others followed, and the marketplace turned into a battleground. For the first time since the attack began, the humans pushed the aliens back a few steps. But victory was not free. Every block the humans defended cost lives. The father who had inspired his neighbors was struck down while protecting his daughter. Soldiers fell defending the shelters. Children cried as their parents disappeared into smoke. Pain spread everywhere, yet that pain only deepened the humans' will to fight. They began to see themselves not as victims but as warriors of survival. As dawn began to rise again, the colony looked like a graveyard of fire. Towers were shattered, fields destroyed, homes burned to ashes. Yet through all of this, small fires of human defiance burned brighter. The aliens had won the land, but they had not won the people. The commander of the humans stood on top of the bunker, his uniform torn, his face scarred, and raised a broken flag into the air. Around him, survivors gathered, staring at the rising sun. They were bleeding, but they were alive. They were broken, but not defeated. The war had only just begun. For the first time, the aliens realized something dangerous. They had underestimated humanity. They thought fear would control the humans, but fear had created resistance. They thought destroying buildings would end hope, but hope was not in stone or wood. It was in the hearts of the people. And those hearts were burning. The unexpected war had not ended in one night. It had only opened the door to something greater, something that would spread beyond this colony. Something that would shake the stars themselves. The colony lay in ruins, but ruins do not always mean defeat. Smoke still rose from the broken streets, and fire still burned across the fields. But inside the shelters, basements, and tunnels, something else was burning: hope. It was not loud, it was not clear, but it was alive. The survivors whispered to each other about the small victories of the night. They spoke of the alien soldiers who fell under human hands, of the mother who stole an alien weapon, of the father who gave his life protecting his child. Every story, every whisper, fed the flame inside them. The aliens believed the humans would surrender, but instead, the colony had become a nest of fighters. In the command bunker, the human commander studied a damaged map. His eyes were dark from sleepless hours, but his mind was sharp. The enemy had destroyed power plants and communication towers, but one hidden transmitter remained deep inside the mountains. If they could reach it, they could send a message to Earth, a cry for help. He looked at his soldiers, a small group tired and wounded, and told them of the plan. The mission was simple but nearly impossible. Reach the mountains, protect the transmitter, and send a signal before the aliens discovered it. The soldiers listened in silence. Every man and woman knew what it meant. Most would not return. But they did not hesitate. They nodded, because dying for survival was better than living in chains. Meanwhile, in the ruins of the marketplace, the mother with the alien rifle sat with her son and daughter. Her hands shook as she cleaned the weapon, but her eyes did not. She had lost neighbors, friends, and her husband, yet her children were alive. That was enough reason to fight. When another survivor came running and whispered about the mission to the mountains, she stood without a word. Her children clung to her, frightened, but she looked into their eyes and promised, "I will return. And if I don't, remember this, we do not bow." Her daughter cried, her son clenched his fists, but they both understood. Their mother was not just protecting them now, she was protecting the future. Above the colony, the alien fleet remained like shadows against the dawn sky. Their commander walked inside his warship, his armor gleaming like black fire. He was proud of the destruction, yet troubled by reports of resistance. His soldiers had crushed cities before, but never had they seen such defiance from so few. He ordered his troops to search deeper, to hunt the humans like animals. He wanted no survivors, no voices left to cry for help. But even he knew that fear was spreading among his warriors. The humans were not strong, but they were unpredictable, and unpredictability was dangerous. The mission began at nightfall. The commander led his small band through the ruins, moving silently between broken walls. Every step was a risk. Alien patrols marched the streets, their glowing weapons searching the darkness. The humans crawled through rubble, hid in collapsed houses, and used underground pipes to slip past the enemy. One soldier carried a child's drawing in his pocket. Another carried a piece of cloth from his wife's dress. They were not just soldiers. They were fathers, brothers, and friends. Every step toward the mountains was not just a mission. It was a promise to their loved ones. But the aliens were not blind. Halfway through the ruins, a patrol spotted them. The silence of the night broke with blasts of fire. The humans scattered, returning fire with desperate courage. The streets lit up with explosions, dust covering the air. One soldier fell, then another, but the others pushed forward. The mother with the alien rifle stood in the middle of the chaos, firing with steady hands, striking down one alien after another. Her rage gave her strength, and the surviving soldiers followed her lead. They fought not to win but to escape, and somehow, through fire and death, they reached the tunnels leading to the mountains. The journey through the tunnels was worse than the streets. Darkness wrapped around them, the air heavy with dust and silence. Every sound echoed like thunder, every breath felt too loud. But the tunnels also carried history, old mining paths, built long before the colony became a home. The humans knew these tunnels. The aliens did not. That knowledge was their weapon. They moved quickly, avoiding traps of falling rocks and broken rails, pushing deeper until at last the cold night air of the mountains touched their faces. High above, hidden in the cliffs, the transmitter waited. It was old, damaged, and weak, but it could still send a signal if powered. The commander ordered his soldiers to secure the area. They worked with trembling hands, connecting wires, fixing circuits, praying that the machine would wake. The mother stood guard with her rifle, her eyes never leaving the darkness below. Every moment felt heavy, every second felt stolen. And then, suddenly, the transmitter lit up with a faint glow. The signal was ready. The commander spoke into the device, his voice steady but filled with desperation. "This is Colony Vega 9. We are under attack. Aliens, unknown species, heavy losses. We request immediate aid. Repeat, immediate aid." His words echoed through static, carrying across the stars. For a moment, hope filled every heart. But then, from the shadows below, came the sound of footsteps, heavy, cold, merciless. The aliens had found them. The first shot shattered the transmitter's base, sparks flying into the air. Soldiers screamed as blasts lit the cliffs. The mother fired until her weapon overheated, refusing to back down. The commander roared orders, rallying his men to hold the line. They were trapped, but they fought like wolves, their anger louder than fear. More aliens poured into the mountains, climbing like shadows, their glowing eyes watching from every angle. The humans stood together, bleeding, dying, but unbroken. As the fight raged, the transmitter flickered. Though damaged, a part of the signal had escaped into the void. No one knew if Earth had received it. No one knew if help was on the way. All the humans could do was fight until the last breath, hoping that their message had reached someone, anyone, who could carry their flame forward. By dawn, the mountains shook with silence again. Bodies lay across the rocks, both human and alien. The transmitter was broken, but its faint signal had already vanished into the stars. Somewhere far away, someone might have heard it. The colony was dying, but its flame was alive, hidden inside the message now racing through space. The unexpected war was no longer just a local battle. It had become a spark that could ignite the entire galaxy. The mountains were still smoking from the night's battle. Broken rocks were scattered, blood stained the ground, and the bodies of humans and aliens lay cold under the rising sun. The survivors who crawled out of the tunnels looked like ghosts, faces dark with ash, eyes hollow from loss, but hearts still beating. They had failed to protect the transmitter, but they did not know that a spark of the signal had escaped before the machine died. Somewhere far beyond their broken world, a message was traveling. They could not see it, they could not hear it, but it was alive, racing silently through the endless dark of space. Back inside the colony ruins, the people waited. No one knew if help would ever come. Mothers held their children close, fathers sharpened broken metal into weapons, soldiers built traps out of rubble. They whispered among themselves about the signal, wondering if Earth had heard them. Some believed no one would come. Others believed the universe itself would not allow them to die so easily. The commander stood among them, his uniform torn, his body covered in cuts, but his voice strong. We are alive. That is enough. As long as we breathe, we fight. And as long as we fight, hope is alive. His words lit fire in the hearts of the survivors, even if it was only a small flame. The aliens, however, were not blind to this defiance. Their commander walked through the destroyed streets, his claws scraping against stone, his eyes glowing with cold fury. He had wanted an easy victory, but this colony was turning into a thorn in his side. Too many of his soldiers had died at the hands of these weak creatures. He growled, his voice like steel breaking, and ordered a new plan. The humans were not to be crushed only by weapons. They were to be broken by fear. He ordered his troops to drag survivors into the open and display them as warnings. He wanted to rip away every piece of hope left. That night, the aliens gathered hundreds of survivors in the ruined square. Families were forced to kneel while armored giants stood over them. Children cried, men shouted, women prayed, but the aliens showed no mercy. The alien commander raised his weapon high, ready to strike terror into every heart. But before he could act, a scream echoed from the rooftops. Shots rang out, bright flashes cut the darkness, and several aliens fell where they stood. From the shadows, human fighters poured into the square. Those who had escaped the mountains had returned. The mother with the alien rifle fired again and again, her rage louder than her fear. The commander charged forward with a broken blade in his hand, his soldiers behind him. Chaos filled the night once more. The battle in the square was madness. Humans attacked with knives, stones, stolen rifles, anything they could find. The aliens answered with fire, burning whole walls to ash. Screams and explosions mixed in the air, but one truth could not be hidden. The humans were not giving up. For every man who fell, another stepped forward. For every child who cried, a mother shouted with fury. The aliens had wanted to show fear, but instead, they had shown the humans how to fight together. Far away, across the silent ocean of space, the faint human signal finally reached the first listening station near Earth. At first, the officers thought it was nothing more than broken static. But as they worked, the message became clear. This is Colony Vega 9. We are under attack. Aliens, unknown species, heavy losses. Request immediate aid. The words froze the room. For decades, humanity had wondered if they were alone. Now, the answer came in fire and blood. The officers immediately sent the message to the Central Command on Earth. Within hours, every leader, every general, every scientist knew the truth. Humanity was not alone, and the universe was not friendly. Back on the colony, no one knew yet that their call for help had been heard. They only knew that they were still alive after the battle in the square. They dragged the wounded back to the shelters, buried their dead under broken stones, and whispered prayers into the smoke-filled sky. The commander walked through his people, his steps heavy but firm. He told them that Earth would hear, that Earth would come, but in his own heart, he was not certain. The only thing he knew was that tomorrow, the aliens would attack again. And when they did, the humans would fight again. Above the burning colony, the alien fleet spread its wings wider, more ships descending like shadows across the horizon. The war was no longer unexpected. It had become inevitable. The humans had sent a spark into the stars, and now the galaxy itself was about to answer. The colony's ruins smoldered in silence, but silence never meant peace. People hid in broken shelters, clutching one another, their hearts heavy with fear and yet alive with the fire of survival. They had lost homes, families, and safety, but they had not lost their will. Rumors spread among them that the signal had reached Earth. No one had proof, but whispers alone were enough to keep hope alive. A mother whispered to her child that soldiers from Earth would come flying through the stars. An old man told his neighbors that humanity's armies were larger than the aliens could ever imagine. Hope became a fragile weapon, invisible but powerful, carried from voice to voice. High above, the alien fleet spread across the sky like dark wings. Their commander sat on his throne of steel inside the largest warship, his glowing eyes scanning the battlefield reports. He had crushed colonies before, but something about these humans disturbed him. They were fragile, yet they kept fighting. They were weak, yet they killed his strongest soldiers. Fear did not control them. It only fed their anger. He clenched his clawed hand and growled, ordering his forces to tighten the noose. He wanted the last human resistance destroyed before help could arrive. Deep under the colony, the human commander studied his remaining forces. Barely 100 soldiers stood ready, their weapons mismatched, their armor broken. But their eyes carried the same flame. He told them, the signal is gone, but maybe it reached someone. Until we know, we fight. We fight so our children live long enough to see the sky change. His words were met with silent nods. They all understood that survival was not just about living. It was about holding out long enough for rescue. Meanwhile, far across the endless void of space, Earth's command center was alive with noise. The faint message from Vega 9 had been confirmed, decoded, and shared with every leader. Generals shouted, scientists analyzed, politicians argued, but one truth was clear: humanity was under attack. The dream of being alone in the galaxy had died. Now, war had come. The military mobilized fleets that had never been used beyond Earth's orbit. Ships were armed, soldiers prepared, and a single order echoed through the halls of command: we answer. The first rescue fleet was launched, cutting through space with engines burning brighter than suns. It would take time to reach the colony, but hope was now racing back across the stars. Back in the ruins, the survivors had no idea that help was coming. For them, every day was another battle, every hour another test. The mother with the alien rifle stood guard at the entrance of a hidden tunnel, her children asleep beside her. She whispered promises into the dark, telling them Earth would not forget. She did not know if it was true, but her voice made them sleep without tears. The commander walked the tunnels, checking on each family, speaking words of courage even as his own body shook from exhaustion. His people looked at him not just as a leader but as a symbol, the last wall between them and extinction. The aliens struck again before dawn. Their ships rained fire, their soldiers stormed the streets, but the humans were ready. They had turned ruins into traps, collapsed walls onto patrols, and used tunnels to strike from behind. Every attack was answered with resistance. Small victories lit sparks in the darkness. An alien squad was wiped out by farmers armed with explosives made from fuel tanks. A defense tower, thought destroyed, suddenly roared back to life and shot down 2 alien craft before falling silent again. These moments were small, but together they told one story: the humans would not die quietly. The alien commander grew furious. He wanted the colony finished, yet every hour dragged it out. He sent his strongest warriors, but even they returned with wounds. He did not understand why these creatures refused to kneel. In his arrogance, he made a mistake. He ordered his fleet to prepare for a final assault, gathering massive firepower to erase the colony in one strike. He believed destroying the humans completely would end the problem. But in waiting, in gathering his power, he gave Earth the time it needed. Far away, the human rescue fleet flew faster than ever before. Inside the lead ship, soldiers prepared themselves, their faces hard with determination. They had heard the signal, heard the desperation, and their blood boiled. For years, humanity had fought each other, but now the enemy was not human. Now they were united. They were not going to Vega 9 only to fight. They were going to show the galaxy that humans did not bend, humans did not surrender. Back on the colony, the people saw the alien fleet moving strangely, gathering into formations high in the sky. Fear spread like fire. Many believed this was the end. The commander called his people together, standing tall even as the ground shook with approaching doom. "If this is our last day," he shouted, "then let the stars remember that we fought it. Let them remember that humans do not bow." His words were met with cheers, broken but fierce, echoing through the ruins. That night, the sky above the colony burned brighter than ever before. Alien ships prepared their final strike, their weapons glowing with deadly light. But in the silence of the dark, another light appeared, faint at first, then stronger. Dozens, then hundreds of streaks of fire cut across the stars, growing larger, brighter, faster. The survivors stared in shock, not believing their eyes. The children pointed, the soldiers shouted, the mothers wept. It was not meteors. It was not alien fire. It was something else. It was the rescue fleet of Earth, breaking through the void like a storm. The aliens noticed too late. Their commander roared in fury, ordering his fleet to prepare for battle. But for the first time, he felt something he had not felt in centuries: doubt. The humans had not only resisted, they had called more humans. And now, the invaders would face not a broken colony but the full rage of a united world. The unexpected war was about to change. For the first time, it was not just survival. It was retaliation. The colony's survivors stood frozen as the sky changed before their eyes. 4 days they had only seen alien ships, dark, sharp, and merciless. Now new lights cut across the black heavens, brighter and faster than anything they had ever seen. Children pointed at them with trembling hands, mothers covered their mouths in disbelief, and soldiers lifted their weapons as if to salute. The commander looked upward, his chest heavy with relief. The message had been heard. Earth had answered. But the moment of awe was short. The alien fleet, vast and cruel, shifted in the sky. The invaders realized they were no longer facing a broken colony, they were facing an army. Their commander roared across his bridge, his voice echoing through metal halls. Orders spread like fire: destroy them before they land. Crush them in the void. The first wave began before the human rescue fleet had even entered orbit. Alien warships opened fire, beams of burning energy cutting across the darkness. Explosions lit up the stars, shockwaves trembling even on the ground below. The people in the colony watched with wide eyes as the heavens became a battlefield. Some cried in fear, others cheered with hope. They did not know who would win, only that the fight for their survival had truly begun. Inside the lead Earth ship, soldiers sat strapped in their seats, the walls shaking around them. Pilots shouted codes, engineers screamed updates, and generals barked orders. Yet through all the chaos, there was no fear in their eyes. They had trained for years for battles they thought might never come. Now, the enemy was real. Now, the fight mattered. The admiral of the fleet stood at the center, his voice calm but thunderous. Remember why we came. Remember who we fight for. These aliens believe we are weak. Show them what humanity is. The first clash was brutal. Alien ships dove like blades, firing beams that cut through steel. Human ships answered with missiles, railguns, and energy shields glowing against the dark. One Earth cruiser exploded in a silent burst of fire, scattering debris across the void. But before the aliens could celebrate, 3 of their own ships were torn apart by coordinated human fire. For every scream in the comms, there was another cheer of victory. The war was no longer one-sided. Humanity had drawn blood. On the colony below, the survivors gathered in the streets, staring up at the burning sky. They could see the battle in flashes, bright bursts of fire, falling debris, and the terrifying silhouettes of ships colliding. The mother with the alien rifle held her children close, whispering that this was the moment they had been waiting for. The old man in the tunnels raised his fist to the sky, shouting with the voice of 1,000 prayers. Hope was no longer a whisper. Hope was alive. But victory was far from certain. The alien fleet was massive, older, and stronger than anything humans had faced. Their weapons cut through space with terrifying precision, their shields absorbing blow after blow. The human fleet fought fiercely, but every win came with heavy loss. Another Earth destroyer vanished in flames, its crew silenced forever. The Admiral clenched his jaw, his hands tight on the rail, but his voice never shook. Push forward. Hold the line. We are not here to survive, we are here to win. The aliens tried to surround the human fleet, their ships moving in a deadly formation. But humans were unpredictable. Instead of retreating, the Admiral ordered his ships to dive straight into the heart of the enemy line. Missiles streaked forward, railguns thundered, and boarding pods launched from hidden bays. Human marines stormed alien ships, fighting hand-to-hand in corridors filled with smoke and blood. Every soldier knew they might not return, but every one of them fought with fury. They were no longer defending just a colony. They were defending humanity's place in the galaxy. The alien commander watched from his throne of steel, his eyes narrowing as more of his ships fell. Rage boiled inside him. For centuries, his kind had conquered without question. Every world had bent, every species had fallen. But these humans were different. They did not bow. They did not break. Their weakness was a mask for something far more dangerous, their will. With a roar, he stood and ordered his fleet to unleash their most powerful weapon, a massive cannon hidden deep within his flagship. Energy gathered at its core, glowing brighter than a star, preparing to fire a blast that could erase half the human fleet in one strike. On the Earth flagship, alarms screamed. The Admiral saw the energy build on the alien commander's ship, and his heart pounded. He knew what was coming. He had seconds to decide. He looked at his crew, at the faces of men and women who trusted him with their lives. Then he gave the order that would define the battle. All ships, focus fire on that flagship. Do not stop until it burns. The humans obeyed without hesitation. Hundreds of missiles launched, streaking like falling stars. Railguns fired in thunderous waves. Fighters swarmed the alien flagship like angry hornets. The aliens fired back, tearing ships apart, but the humans did not relent. Even as they lost comrades, even as fire consumed their decks, they pressed forward. The alien cannon charged brighter and brighter, seconds away from firing. And then, one missile broke through, striking the weapon's core. The explosion lit up the void like a second sun. The shockwave rippled across the battlefield, shaking ships on both sides. The alien flagship shuddered, its mighty cannon torn apart, its hull split with fire. For the first time, the alien commander staggered, his eyes wide with disbelief. His fleet faltered, their perfect formation breaking. And in that moment, humanity struck harder than ever before. From the colony below, the survivors saw the explosion blaze across the sky. A roar rose from their throats, louder than the fire, louder than the battle. They screamed, they cheered, they wept. For the first time since the unexpected war began, they believed victory was possible. But the war was not over. The alien flagship still lived, crippled but furious. Its commander swore vengeance with every breath, his rage burning brighter than the fires consuming his ship. The humans had won the first clash, but the true storm was still ahead. This was not the end. It was the beginning of a war that would spread far beyond one colony, far beyond one world. The clash in the void had changed everything. The galaxy now knew one truth: humans did not kneel. The battlefield in the sky had grown quiet, but it was not the silence of peace. Broken ships drifted in orbit, their burning pieces falling slowly into the colony's atmosphere. Human wreckage floated beside alien wreckage, both glowing like dying stars. The survivors in the colony stood in the streets, staring upward with trembling hearts. They had seen the impossible. Earth's fleet had come, and it had fought the invaders to a standstill. For the first time since the war began, the people felt the taste of hope not as a whisper but as a fire in their blood. Inside the Earth flagship, the Admiral stood surrounded by tired officers. Reports filled the air, dozens of ships destroyed, hundreds of soldiers dead, but the fleet still alive. He leaned heavily against the command rail, his body exhausted, but his voice remained steady. "We hold," he said. "As long as one ship of ours still fights, we hold." His officers nodded, though their faces carried both pride and grief. They had survived, But survival had come at a terrible cost. Far across the void, inside the wounded alien flagship, the invader commander stood among flames. Sparks fell from broken walls, smoke filled the air, and his soldiers trembled as they reported damage. But the commander's eyes did not tremble. His rage burned brighter than the fire around him. For centuries, no one had ever dared wound him. No one had ever shattered his fleet. Yet these humans, these fragile creatures, had done what no empire had achieved. His voice thundered through the halls, shaking the metal itself. I will not leave until this world burns. I will tear their hope from their bones. They will learn fear. His soldiers bowed, their armor rattling, but even they felt unease. The humans had shown a strength beyond logic. Defeating them would not be easy. On the colony below, the human survivors gathered in the ruined square, where fire still smoked from earlier battles. The mother with the alien rifle stood with other families, holding her children close. The commander of the colony defense addressed them. His voice was rough from exhaustion, yet it carried power. We are no longer alone, he said. Earth has answered. We are not forgotten. But this fight is not over. The aliens will return, angrier than before. They want not just our land, they want our spirit. Do not give it to them. His words echoed across the ruins, and the people answered with cheers, weak but strong enough to be heard. That night, shadows moved again in the colony. Alien raiding squads descended from the sky, striking at shelters and tunnels, testing the humans' strength. But this time, the humans were ready. Soldiers ambushed patrols, children threw firebombs made from stolen fuel, and families defended their shelters with whatever weapons they had. The streets turned red once more, but the humans fought with a unity they had never known before. Every scream of loss was answered by a shout of defiance. The war had carved pain into them, but pain had also carved courage. Meanwhile, in the alien flagship, the commander studied a new plan. He had realized brute force would not break the humans. They were too stubborn, too wild. Instead, he would strike at their heart. His scouts had discovered the hidden tunnels where the humans sheltered, the places where their children and wounded hid. He decided to unleash something worse than fire, fear itself. He prepared a weapon, not just of destruction but of terror, a weapon designed to crush will instead of only flesh. His vow was clear: if they refuse to kneel, I will make them crawl. The next morning, the survivors felt the ground shake under their feet. At first, they thought it was bombardment from above, but then a new sound came, deep, heavy, like thunder crawling across the land. From the horizon, massive alien war machines appeared, crawling on metal legs, taller than the tallest towers. Their weapons glowed, but more terrifying were the sounds they made. Screams of energy that cut through the air like voices of the damned. The children hid their faces, the mothers wept, and even the strongest soldiers froze. These were not just machines. They were monsters designed to break the human spirit. But humans had no choice but to fight. The commander of the colony defense rallied his remaining forces. They want us to fear, he shouted, but we will show them fire instead. The soldiers roared, their voices trembling but strong. The mother raised her alien rifle, her children behind her, and stood in the front line. Farmers carried explosives strapped to carts, miners carried drills and axes, and even the wounded came limping to fight. The colony had no army anymore. It had become an army itself. The first clash with the war machines shook the earth. Alien beams tore through buildings, setting the ground on fire. Humans countered with rockets, bombs, and sheer determination. One machine fell when a group of miners crawled beneath it and detonated fuel tanks, sacrificing themselves to bring it down. Another was destroyed by stolen alien rifles fired from rooftops. But each victory cost lives, and the machines kept coming. The battle turned the colony into a storm of smoke and fire, screams and courage. From the orbit above, the Earth fleet watched the ground battle unfold. The admiral clenched his fists, knowing he could not send heavy reinforcements yet. His fleet was still engaged with alien warships in space, locked in a deadly dance of fire. He whispered a promise under his breath. Hold the ground, and we will bring the sky. His words were carried across the comms, reaching the ears of every soldier on the colony floor. The humans fought harder, knowing they were not forgotten. As the sun fell once again, the colony still stood, though barely. The ground was blackened, the air poisoned with smoke, but the humans were alive. They had destroyed several alien machines, though many still marched. The alien commander watched with cold fury, realizing again that his enemy was unlike any he had faced. These humans did not break. They did not bow. They turned every death into a reason to fight harder. Standing in the ruins, the mother looked at her children, her rifle smoking in her hands. She whispered, "We are still here. We will always be here." The commander of the colony defense raised his broken sword high into the air, his soldiers gathering around him, their eyes fierce even in exhaustion. The alien commander on his burning flagship made a vow. He would not stop until the humans were erased. But the humans too had made a vow in blood and fire. They would not stop until freedom was theirs. The war had begun with surprise, but now it was war in full. The galaxy itself seemed to lean closer, watching the clash of two wills, one seeking domination, the other refusing to kneel. And in that clash, the fate of more than one world was about to be decided. The colony was no longer the same. Streets were filled with rubble, the air heavy with smoke, and the ground blackened by fire. Yet from this ruin, a new strength was born. The survivors were no longer just frightened families. They had become soldiers of necessity. Every man, woman, and child carried something. A weapon, a tool, or simply courage in their hearts. The alien commander believed his monstrous machines would crush human spirit, but instead, their screams of terror had turned into cries of defiance. Humanity had bent, but it had not broken. At dawn, the commander of the colony defense gathered what was left of his forces in the central square. His sword was broken, his armor torn, but his eyes still carried fire. He raised his voice so all could hear. "We have waited, we have suffered, we have bled. But today, we rise. They came to take our world, but we will make them fear it. Every stone, every street, every shadow will fight against them. We are the resistance, and we will not bow." The people roared back, their voices echoing through the ruins. Children shouted with fists raised, mothers held rifles tight, and even the wounded lifted their heads with pride. The humans had learned their enemy. They had seen the war machines fall when struck from below. They had seen alien soldiers falter when outnumbered in tight alleys. They had seen that even the strongest fleet could bleed. Knowledge became their weapon, and courage became their shield. That morning, they launched their first true counterattack. Small groups moved silently through tunnels and rooftops, striking alien patrols before vanishing into the smoke. Farmers strapped explosives to carts and rolled them under enemy machines, setting them off with sparks. Miners used drills and pickaxes to tear into alien armor. Children delivered messages through rubble-strewn streets, guiding fighters where they were needed most. The entire colony had become a battlefield, and every human was now a soldier. The aliens were not prepared. For days they had believed humans would only hide, only defend. Now, they faced an enemy that attacked from everywhere, without fear, without pause. Patrols vanished into alleys, war machines toppled into fire, and supply lines were ambushed in the night. The alien commander slammed his fist against the console of his burning flagship, his roar shaking the walls. "They are vermin," he growled. "They do not fight with honor. They crawl, they bite, they sting. I will erase them." Yet even as he spoke, doubt touched his heart. His kind had crushed worlds before, but never had they faced a people who grew stronger with every loss. Above, the battle in space still raged. The Earth fleet fought tooth and nail, losing ships but refusing to retreat. The Admiral watched reports of the ground counterattack, pride burning in his chest. His people on the surface were not waiting to be saved. They were saving themselves. He sent orders to support them, diverting fighters to target alien supply drops and bombard enemy machines. Every blast from orbit gave the survivors below more room to fight. One battle became legend that day. In the ruins of the old marketplace, a massive alien war machine stood, its glowing cannons tearing through buildings. Dozens of humans lay dead around it. But still, they charged. The mother with the alien rifle stood on a rooftop, firing shot after shot at its weak points. When her weapon overheated, she screamed and threw a grenade stolen from an alien soldier. At the same time, a group of miners crawled beneath the machine with explosives strapped to their backs. The explosion shook the ground, toppling the giant into fire. The humans roared in victory, their cheers echoing louder than the flames. For the first time, the aliens hesitated. For the first time, they felt fear. The counterattack spread like fire. Every street turned into a trap, every ruin into a fortress. Humans struck at night, appearing and disappearing like shadows. The aliens found themselves fighting not an army, but a people who refused to die. They had thought victory was certain. Now, they realized the war would not be easy. The alien commander paced inside his burning flagship, his claws scraping the floor. His pride was wounded, his rage uncontrollable. He ordered more ships, more fire, more destruction. But deep in his mind, a whisper grew louder. What if these humans could not be broken? What if their will was stronger than his empire's power? The thought poisoned him, but he could not deny it. On the ground, the humans stood blooded but proud. The commander of the colony defense raised his broken blade once more, his voice cutting through smoke and chaos. "We are still here," he shouted. "And as long as we stand, we will make them bleed. This is our home, and we will fight for it until the stars themselves fall." His soldiers roared back, their voices carrying into the sky. The counterattack had not won the war. The colony was still burning, the people still dying, and the alien fleet still massive. But something far greater had been born in the ruins. The invaders had wanted to show humans fear. Instead, the humans had shown them fire. And for the first time, the aliens began to understand the truth. This war would not end quickly. This war would not end easily. This war would decide the fate of the stars.